My name is Abhishek Jain, and I'm pleased to invite you all to the fifth episode of the KYO series, or the Know Your Option series post 12th grade by Planty. In today's session, we will be covering a BSc or a Bachelor of Science in Biological Sciences. Today, we're very fortunate to have with us Vani Srinivasan, a graduate of the 2020 batch of the Sri Venkateswara College, affiliated to the University of Delhi, with a BSc in Biological Sciences. She has previously worked as a resource team member at the International Youth Neuroscience Association and is currently pursuing her master's degree from the Ludwig Maximilian University. In today's session, Vani will be speaking in detail on pursuing a BSc and more specifically a BSc in Biological Sciences, what it entails, and the various opportunities and career options that it opens up upon completion. I would now like to hand it over to Vani to begin the session.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So I'm going to structure my talk in a way in which I will tell you all about my experience of choosing my bachelor's in biosciences and how the experience was, things that worked out for me and experiences which did not, and lessons to learn at each stage and how I reached here. I'll take all questions in the end. So post my 12th standard, much like every biology student from the CBSE, I gave 2 attempts of the medical examination NEET. And I think through the preparation of my second attempt, halfway through, I realized that I did not want to do medical, that I was not interested in it anymore, purely because it was a 5-year course. And much like any 12th standard student, I knew I was interested in biology, but I didn't know what, which is also a question that most students still struggle with, to understand what do they like, especially in biology, and what do they want to pursue, and if it's worth pursuing. I knew I liked my whole worldview of biology was the NCERT textbook, and I knew I was interested in it, but I felt an MBBS degree of 5 years would mean that I wouldn't know whether I would be able to pursue maybe my MD after my MBBS, or whether I would lose interest. And I felt it was important for me to delve into biology, to understand what it is, and to see which part of biology really interests me before I make a much more narrow or narrowed career option of what to pursue ahead. And that is why I took up biological sciences. So the advantage with a 3-year BSc and a 2-year MSc degree is that it totals to 5 years. But then after 3 years, you get an opportunity to think, to retrospect what works for you, what doesn't work for you, which part of the subject would you want to pursue ahead, and then just pursue that instead of having to do a 5-year degree that maybe after 3 years you realize you're not interested in. I specifically chose biological sciences over other courses for the following reasons. Biological sciences at the time when I was taking admission was offered only majorly in Sri Venkateswara College, and also in 1 or 2 other colleges. The reason why it was so rare is because it's held by 3 departments. So the Department of Botany, Zoology, and Biochemistry, all the 3 hold biosciences together. So biosciences students study, and many a times we study interdisciplinary subjects or interdisciplinary research, which might not be as much in depth, but then we get a very different perspective of biology in comparison to any other honors student. And I chose biological sciences after looking through the curriculum, comparing it with other degrees, say a botany, zoology, biochemistry degree. And I realized the more number of options that biological sciences gave me, the more freedom I had in choosing which subpart would I want to focus on post 3 years. And I felt that was a more practical approach. And here's where I would want to tell you all what worked for me and what didn't. What worked for me was looking through the course curriculum for major degrees. I would suggest most 12th standard students who are wanting to pursue bachelor's after their 12th standard to go through college websites, go into programs, download their curriculum, look through the 3-year curriculum and see if it actually interests you. I find that approach not only useful for bachelor's but also ahead, and often it works much better than hearing it from somebody else, because every person or every student who graduates will have a biased opinion about it. That worked for me. What did not work for me was that I did not talk to, say, students who had graduated from biological sciences. I felt I could have had a much more wholesome opinion of what I was getting into 2-3 years of bachelor's if I had, connected to somebody via LinkedIn or say a common friend to understand how bachelor's works and what I should be prepared for. So the reason why one should choose a bachelor's degree, and I think a bachelor's degree works for those people who want something that is more flexible, who are not yet sure what exactly interests them, or if they just want to spend time understanding a subject much better before they come make a choice, right? And biology students who want to pursue biological sciences, I think it will be a great degree for you if you are interested in interdisciplinary science and interdisciplinary research. I also find it very realistic because most research that is conducted now in major labs around the world is all interdisciplinary research. Because let's say 20 years ago, biochemists were struggling with how proteins fold, and now that is solved by machine learning. So one can understand how interdisciplinary research science is. The second part of my speech is what are the particular requirements for admission into biological sciences. Yes, Delhi University cutoffs go high. So one needs to have high scores in physics, chemistry, and biology. Maths was not a compulsory subject for biological sciences. It is for biochemistry. So depending upon what scores you get and what interests you, definitely high scores in your CBSE examinations pretty much become a must, because seats for these courses close by the second or the third cutoff list. The third part was my perspective of 3 years of bachelor's. As I said, because it was held by 3 departments, it meant that I studied, say, 9 to 10 subjects through 3 years. Each semester would be new subjects that are sometimes held, a single subject held by 3 different lecturers, all from different departments, who are giving different perspectives of that subject. So, in a very layman comparison, I would end up having not very in-depth knowledge, but more broader and more wholesome knowledge of the subject in comparison to a botany or zoology or a biochemistry student, right? And that's what biological sciences gives you. It gives you, in the intersection of those 3 subjects, it gives you multiple small areas that you get much more information from in comparison to doing just one subject alone. You get a decent level of laboratory experience, something that is present in all undergraduate curriculum. You learn a lot, and that's something that I'll come to later, of how a bachelor's degree works and what you should expect. However, most of the opportunities that I got in my bachelor's were not necessarily associated with my curriculum. These were just opportunities that I got by informally interacting with my professors, or figuring out poster presentations, or finding out, picking up small projects with my professors. And this is the second part. This is the part where I want to tell you about what you should keep in mind, or what you should expect from a bachelor's degree. The best part about doing a bachelor's in science from Delhi University is that, in comparison to a more mainstream field such as a medical degree or an LLB degree, is that the expectations out of a bachelor's degree are particular career, right? So you are expected to perform well in the subjects that you're taught, and that's about it. The advantage was that with that is that the expectations of your degree are less, one, and b, um, the more you do in the subject is purely dependent upon how passionate you are about it, right? So many of the projects that I picked up in my bachelor's were because I was interested in that subject. So it was in my fifth semester that I picked up a project with my professor because I liked what he was talking, and we did an extension on already like an ongoing practical, and that ended up becoming a project, and we wrote a report on it. The advantage, and not just the advantage, the importance of such projects is that it is appreciated, not just within your college or within your own small scientific community, but it's also appreciated when you apply for masters, when you sit for interviews, because that is what interviews will question you on, is that why did you do this particular project, and you'll be able to answer them, because you'll be able to say, I was not only interested in the subject because I wanted to pass an examination, but I was interested to the extent that I did a project, and this is what I did. And that really, really helps. And most of those decisions, those important decisions, are purely based on choice, which means you're going through your bachelor's degree purely based on your interest and not per se by an obligation or by a set standard, right? Um, Thankfully, Delhi University is well funded, decently well funded, which means that you more say whether it's a good library or whether it's a good lab or whether it's excellent professors, which means that you have experience and facilities given to you. They're at your disposal, and it all depends upon how you, I mean, the what use you make of it. And now the things that I didn't do in my bachelor's that I felt were important was skill development. So computational biology is becoming an important field in biology and research itself. And I did not spend enough time training myself in computational biology, which is learning how to code, learning to use different softwares. And once that, now that I've come into my master's, I see how important that is. In general, bachelor's is a great time to revise your basics, to delve deep into your basics, and to develop new skills, whether that be coding, whether that be using different softwares, whether that be hard skills, working in the laboratory, whether that be teaching. You can also pick up small teaching projects while working under your professors, or you can also learn how to write, which is also very important in terms of writing SOPs or writing letters to professors, becomes very, very important. And that's a great time to add all of those skills onto your CV, because the more number of skills you have, the better your CV is, and the better chances of you getting into a master's of your choice, if that's your career goal. So as I said, most of the opportunities that I took in my bachelor's were not necessarily associated with my bachelor's degree. So I worked with two projects with my professor. One was an intra-college internship. The other was a small student-oriented project that actually blew up a little big. There was my work with International Youth Neuroscience Association was purely voluntary. I picked up a biostatistics course in ISA Pune. I also picked up a poster presentation in the field of neuroscience in ISA Pune. So all of those small opportunities that I picked up were purely based on my own interests and my own voluntary effort into writing mails or applying for positions or simply doing Google searches to see what is available, or if there are any positions available which can give me extra experience. And I think that's very important through your bachelor's degree, because almost, let's say, 120 kids end up graduating with the same degree, and what sets you apart is what you've picked up apart from your degree. And things that I did not do through this networking process, through this process, was that I did not network with my seniors very well. And I think that's very important, because they have gone through the degree that you're currently doing. They've gone through that experience. They've sat for their master's interviews, and they've thankfully reached better heights. So it's important that and it's relatively easy in this day and age to get in touch with your seniors or to get in touch with people who've graduated from that course, is to talk to them, to genuinely understand what the process is like and get as many perspectives as you can, and then sit and figure out what works for you, and then pursue it further. And this ranges from how to prepare for master's entrance examinations, or what to expect in master's interviews, or how you should write your statement of purpose when you're applying to universities, or which program should you choose, what should be your strategy in searching for programs, should you choose for international master's programs, or should you choose to stay in India, what are the advantages and disadvantages. All of that knowledge comes from networking, and it's very important that you network within that small scientific community that the bachelor's provides you with. um, the next part is career expectations. To be honest, my career expectations did not change much. I always expected to stay in research or to do research post my bachelor's, whether I go into my master's and hopefully a PhD, and to work as a part lecturer and a part researcher, because I also love to teach. But what the bachelor's experience did help was in knowing that there are many, many, many more options rather than just staying in academia, or just pursuing to become a lecturer. You can also work in biotech companies, biopharma companies, and that is huge. It's a very good career prospect for people who are wanting to finish learning by their masters or want to do a PhD within a company. That's also an option open. And if you want to do a PhD while earning, that's also possible when you work with biotech companies. You can also become editors in scientific journals. If you are someone who has a good knowledge in science, and you also have a flair for writing, becoming an editor or being a part of peer reviewed journals is also a career option open. Um, Bachelor's in biological sciences gave me a lot of interdisciplinary insight, as I had previously said. The amount of influence that computational biology has on the way experiments are done in science um, really opened my eyes into all that is possible, besides just a botany, zoology, biochemistry, rudimentary perspective. And I think that's where biological sciences has that edge, in giving you a much more realistic perspective of what to expect, right? And so those are the broad career prospects that you can expect, and there are much more. People also work as consultants to companies or to research labs. Senior consultants working as like consultants in research labs. That's also a career prospect. Um, the next part is common myths while pursuing your bachelor's. Is one that bachelor's in Delhi University is easy. I will not say it's easy. I'll say it's flexible. If you're doing your bachelor's, no matter what degree that is, but if you it's specifically for biological sciences, if you're doing your degree to pass, you can. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple, and you can score decently well by not being very interested in it. But post going higher up that level, the better, the more amount of time or effort that you invest in your studies, the better results it reaps. And so I would say that bachelor's in DU, and especially bachelor's in biological sciences, is very, very flexible, and it's a great career option for people who are not yet sure of what they want to do and are definitely not looking forward to becoming doctors. The second myth is that you do your bachelor's in biological sciences or just bachelor's in Delhi University when you do not have other options. I think that's not true. Um, People, if done well, or if you choose it for the right reasons, a bachelor's in biological sciences means that you're willing to look forward to more options, you're willing to explore more, before you settle down with the decision of following one career path. And I think that's not only brave, and that's also practical, considering the rate at which at least biological research is evolving. The third thing is that, and this is not just true for bachelor's in biological sciences, but just any career path you choose after your 12th, is that there's a lot of pressure in you having clarity, and that you're afraid that you'll make the wrong choice. And that's more so true for pursuing biological sciences, purely because it's so flexible, and that you're not set up on a path to a very specific career. I think it's okay if you are not very clear in what you want to do. Nobody is. But more than that, the 3 years will give you a lot of time to get that clarity. You might not be sure of exactly what you want to do, but you'll know what you don't want to do. And that trend of eliminating parts of biology that you're not interested in and beginning to focus on what you actually want to do sets you on a much better path to higher education, as compared to, at least for me, that's what worked, is to predetermine one particular career that works for you and to put yourself through it. Um, but apart from that, some basic last minute advice on two phases. One, what you should do before you apply for bachelor's is, as I said, one, go through college programs, go through the curriculum for programs very well. Read through what are the subjects that are going to be picked up, when are they going to be picked up, are they going to be conducted in your first year of bachelor's or on your third year of bachelor's, and what are the lab practicals that you're going to do. See if that area interests you. If just reading it or reading more about it, you realize you want to do it, I think, and it's a tedious process, but I think you should do it if you want to make a better choice of what stream to get into, and which bachelors to choose. The other is talk to your teachers. Many a times, at least my own teachers in school were graduates from Delhi University. So it was helpful for me to talk to them to understand how their experience was. Definitely, experiences do not remain the same, but it was good insight, because they were able to tell me how their experience was and what I could um, more so expect from doing my bachelor's and what I should be working on more. Um, Talk to your seniors, get onto social media, get onto platforms like LinkedIn. Try to find out people who've graduated before and drop them a text, drop them a mail, asking how their experience was and what you should expect or whether you should take the course or not. And this is another thing that I did not know. This was I realized this much later, was that Delhi University is not the only place where you can do your bachelor's. Um, um, just because Delhi University has a hype in and around Delhi, that does not mean it's the only choice. One should definitely sit for exams. There's one called KVPY. It's pretty common amongst 12th standard students, science students. KVPY and Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, ISER, they have entrance examinations. And these entrance examinations are for placements within high research institutes within India, for not just sometimes for a bachelor's degree, sometimes for a bachelor's master's combined degree. And so I did not sit for these examinations. I did not know I could sit for those. I could sit for them. So if you are still confused on whether you do want to do a bachelor's, I would suggest please sit for these examinations. See how you fare uh, within the examination, and then make a choice of whether you want to pursue it further. Please keep multiple options open, which is another reason why I would suggest to sit for these examinations apart from NEET. Is that it always works to have multiple options open, just in case one doesn't work and you don't end up dropping a year. Um, but to be fair, dropping a year, and that's also a pretty common trend, post your 12th standard, many people drop a year for giving their medical exam, attempting their medical examination again. I didn't. I was preparing for the second attempt of NEET while pursuing my first year of bachelor's. Um, a year drop, and this is a widely contested opinion, but from the way that I have interacted with my seniors and I have seen people give their interviews, is that a 1 year drop does not look very good on your CV. Because that will be something that you will be questioned on when you sit for your master's interviews. They would definitely ask you, they would compare your age and then compare your graduation year, and then they would, join 1 plus 1 is 2, and then they'll ask you, why did you drop a year? And they would always expect a more solid answer than saying I was preparing for a medical examination. For many people, it's a choice that they make, but on my personal opinion, I would say against it. Um, then advice on um, what you should do when you are pursuing your bachelor's. The first thing, and this is something that I learned late, is learn to communicate. Um, Not just with your seniors, not just with your own course mates, but also with professors. Not only professors from your own university or your own institute, but beyond it. Whether that be a professor who's working on an X project in Y city, you can easily find their email ID via social media, and write them a mail. Tell them that you are a bachelor student who's interested and that you want to work with them, and let them know that you have a background in so and so biology subjects, you have a background in laboratory experience within your curriculum, and that you think you'll make a good research student. Please learn to communicate and write via mail to people, because I've also known my seniors who've gotten internships because they took that extra effort of writing to professors, and after maybe say 50 no's, you get a yes. The second thing, pick up small projects. This is absolutely not compulsory, but you'll also not be propelled towards it. It's not like lecturers would be very enthusiastic in inviting students into projects, but if they do see 2 to 3 students who are really interested and motivated and want to do something beyond the subject, they would try their best to help you out. And I think that is another advantage of Delhi University. Um, Lecturers, is because it creates that environment where you can do these small projects, and these projects are encouraged not just by the lecturer but also by the university. The third thing would be to be more open minded, um, especially when you're learning skills. I had an aversive nature towards coding, and now I'm beginning to like it. I was aversive towards learning new languages, and now I am. I think these skills are being open minded to pursuing these skills and also having these skills on your CV are very important, not just from a career perspective, but also in general. Um, the fourth would be, now this is most important, is to know that when you're pursuing your bachelor's, you'll realize that you don't know a lot. Is that 12th standard education does not do justice in encompassing all that is biology or all that is any subject that you pursue. Please, it's important that you accept the fact that you don't know a lot, and that you be curious, and that at least bachelor's in biological sciences gives you the opportunity to stop looking at your subject from a marks perspective and start engaging with the subject as a subject. Taking extra classes with your professors, asking doubts, reading up research papers, looking up extra books in the library. All of these small experiences really add up. And yeah, the last would be, this is particularly focused towards biological sciences, is that it's a great time to dig into your basics and revisit all that has been studied and mugged up during 11th and 12th, is to really understand them through the 3 year period. And biological sciences does a great job in giving a much more realistic perspective of what you can expect from research post bachelor's. And uh, I think if you are a 12th standard student who resonates with anything that has been said for the last 40-44 minutes, then I think bachelor's in science, especially in biological sciences, if not any other biology subject in Delhi University, should be a great choice for you. And with that, I would want to end my talk, and I'll be open to any questions.
Thanks a lot, Vani. I think that was a very, very detailed session. I don't really think you've left a lot of scope for questions, so that's wonderful. But I think this is something you spoke about. So I actually just want to ask you just one question, which is very specific to the subject of biology. And I think you brought up a very interesting point that it's not necessarily taught in the best manner when you're in 11th and 12th. So what I want to understand is that do you think it's a fair, like a fair decision for a student to decide on the basis of whether or not they like the subject of biology in 11th and 12th to actually make a decision that, okay, I want to do or do not want to do a BSc in biological sciences, given that it's so different?
Correct. I think I have two answers to that. One, sadly, the education system that we have in India only provides a child 2 years to understand what the child wants to do. And I've also known people who've changed their streams post doing, say, biology in 11th and 12th. They've gone on to social sciences and they're happy. I do understand 11th and 12th biology is not, I would say it's not updated enough to how biology is practiced in real life. But most of the core principles that we still use in biological research, still now, all stem back, surprisingly, all of them stem back to 11th and 12th. So whether that be organic chemistry or whether that be genetics or whether that be reproduction, or most of those topics remain the same, the basics remain the same, no matter how high you go in your future higher education. So I think I still would not be able to justify deciding upon a career purely based on 2 years of bachelor's, 2 years of biology. But I think here's where sitting for entrance examinations post 11th and 12th make a huge difference, because then you're not only studying for CBSE examination, 12 standard marks, you're studying from an entrance exam perspective, which requires a very different approach. You end up engaging with the subject much more than what CBSE asks you to do. And that small period, it's a particularly tense period, but that period of engaging with your subject would really help you think and retrospect whether you like that subject or not. And in that same breath, I would also say, especially when you're choosing your bachelor's in comparison to other careers, it's okay if post doing your bachelor's you realize you don't want to do this anymore. There are people end up doing their civil services, or people end up taking up teaching professions, or people people end up doing their MBA post their bachelor's, or they come with an understanding that, what, I don't want to do biology all my life, but a bachelor's in science means that I'm able to get an easier cutoff when you sit for MBA examinations and MBA interviews. So people come with that perspective also. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, I think that's actually a very, very interesting answer, especially the whole idea about actually preparing for competitive exams. I think that's actually very interesting because that allows you to at least go outside the NCRT textbook, and
Absolutely.
that's definitely
Um,
something.
that worked for me, but it worked later when I was preparing for my master's entrance examination. When it wasn't bachelor's anymore and it was in marks, and it meant that I had to clear that entrance if I had to gain an admission, and that sort of initially forced me to engage with the subject, to engage with the books, and study it from a very different perspective. And then it was through that 2-3 month time period that helped me realize what I'm actually interested in and what I'm not.
Yep, I think that sounds very interesting. Thanks for that, Vani. And I think that also brings me to the end of the Q&A session, and with that, the whole session. So thanks a lot, Vani, for taking out the time for
Anytime.
this session. It was
Also,
honestly,
to
yep. I'm
all
so
the
sorry.
people who are listening, I'm always available on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can always text me regarding any problem. I'll try to help you in all my capacity. And if it's possible, I can also direct you to someone who can help you out further.
Thanks a lot for that, Vani. I'm sure a lot of people are going to actually look at this video and probably even reach out to you.
Great.
So thanks once again for taking the time out for this.
Thank you so much. This really helped. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Bye.